Hello, everyone. Welcome to my honest conversations. It's nice seeing people coming in. This is Kristina Mand-Lakhiani. I'm co-founder of Mindvalley. Welcome to my honest conversations. I'm going to introduce my guest in a moment. Meanwhile, I'm letting people still join. It's an evening talk for me here in Estonia, so most of the world is awake. And welcome everyone. And my guest today is Alla Adam. God, I hope I pronounced it properly because I'm not
You
used
did.
to. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Welcome Alla to our Mind Valley stage. It's nice to have you here.
My
Uh,
pleasure, Kristina.
I'll read out your bio because I don't like doing it by memory. It's better to be factually correct. So,
Sure.
Alla is a human and investor, lean startup coach. Alla is a startup mentor at the Start Out, startup school mentor at Y Combinator, startup advisor at CrowdSmart, startup coach at Equally, and the affiliate member of Half Math Institute, Institute of Coaching at McLean Hospital and Harvard Medical School. It's you have actually a lot of credentials because I've researched you, of course, before we started the interview, and you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of education, a lot of experience, and a lot of startup in your bio. So before we go into the topic that we've announced, for those who are not aware, maybe I'm sure you all guys know, we're going to be talking about radical assertiveness, a very interesting topic. But before we start with that, why such a fascination with startup? Is it something lifelong, or is it like, when you have small kids and it's cool to be interested in school education and kindergarten and all these things, but eventually you kind of grow into a different phase of human life? So how is it with you and entrepreneurship, and why so much startup? And isn't it a little bit sometimes frustrating to be always in this beginning, which is on one side kind of awesome, but on the other side is a little bit frustrating because you still don't know if you're going to make it?
I would say that it's a fascination with the process of evolution in general. So startup, start working with a startup, you actually get to see the company in its infancy, and eventually you can experience, it's on the IPO stage or some partnership stage, M&A stage. So for me, it was naturally interesting pretty much most of my professional life. So I was a startup founder myself. And then I slowly moved to venture capital. So I started pretty much evaluating startups professionally. And I started investing parallel. So I was like, okay, let's, explore startups from all the different angles. So when I became a coach, I actually also trained to become a startup coach as well, aside from life career negotiations.
So we are going to be talking about assertiveness, and
We
I was
are.
doing a little bit of research unrelated to this interview, and I discovered um, a very interesting piece of research. Or it's actually not a piece of research; it was an article, and then the ladies were referring to researchers, all sorts of kind of scientists studying this topic. And what a lot of authors say is that when it comes to success, your qualifications are probably as important as your confidence or assertiveness, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but confidence most likely, which is a little bit maybe frustrating, because if you're more of a shy, introverted person, according to research, you have less likelihood to succeed, no matter how
Mm-hmm.
competent you are. So, what's your experience? Because you've worked with a lot of people who are starting off, so there is no guarantee if they're going to succeed or not. Is that true? Is
Mm-hmm.
assertiveness really such a crucial quality for an entrepreneur?
I would say that it is a pretty crucial quality. And the good point is that assertiveness is a skill, so you can actually master it, no matter if you are an introvert or ambivert or extrovert, right? So I'm usually asked, like, what is the shortest definition of assertiveness? And I would say that assertiveness is the art of respectful and compassionate grit. So this means that, you
Can you
stick to
can you
your
say it once again?
values.
It's
That's okay.
important. Yeah.
So assertiveness is the art of respectful and compassionate grit.
As in, grit normally might be disrespectful or not compassionate.
Grit in a positive way. I would say grit is when you actually state your ground. When you say, these are my values, I'm not ready to betray them, and this is what I want, and this is how I want it, right? And I am not ready to compromise and just get something else. I don't want to substitute. This is it. So this is about healthy boundaries and about firm decisions. So yes, introverts can perfectly learn it. There's a wonderful book called Quiet about introverts and how they become super successful entrepreneurs and startup founders in my case.
So you say in my case because you by nature also not the noisy extrovert?
I'm an ambivert, so this is a combination of extroversion and introversion. So I can perfectly spend time by myself and actually not require any, societal buzz. At the same time, I am perfectly fine in the society. So in case, whatever the situation demands.
So another question is maybe a little from a slightly different angle, but another piece of research which I discovered was that women by maybe nature or nurture, actually it's hard to find the reasons for that, are less assertive and less confident. The way we take failure is quite different from men, apparently. Well, that's what a lot of authors say, that women tend to take failure more personally, and men look more into the external circumstances when they face the failure. So is that true? What's your experience? And are women really less assertive?
I would say yes in general, but women are learning to become more assertive. So especially here in the US, where I am at now, it's kind of like the society is pushing us towards being more assertive, being more self-reliant, and moving, forward in life, pretty much propelling in life, and learning how to depend on our own selves and how to actually guard our values. So in general, in the world, yes, women are less assertive. It's pretty much a lot due to our cultural upbringing. It's like, be quiet, listen to your man, like, don't interrupt, don't say anything that contradicts your parents' opinions. All those beautiful things that don't add value to assertiveness, of course.
For those who are listening in right now, I want to ask you a question as well. How assertive, can I use actually assertive and confident as interchangeable, or they are different things?
They are different. Assertiveness is when you state your confidence. So we can say that assertiveness is backed up by confidence.
So in that case, how assertive would you think you are, 1 to 10? So by 10 being incredibly assertive and 1 being actually the opposite of the scale. Maybe you could explain, in fact, what would be the two sides of the scale of assertiveness, so that we know. And is there such a thing as too assertive? Is there a golden middle that we have to look for? If you could explain that.
There's actually no such thing as too assertive. The opposite of assertiveness is passive aggressive or passive aggressive. So too assertive would be aggressive, right? Or passive aggressive when the human just changes the emotions and tries to play with them. Or passive when you choose the position of submissive and you're just like kind of agreeing to the circumstances, going with the flow. So that would be it.
It's a little bit, maybe unexpected because, well, passive I can understand, but a lot of the times assertiveness is explained as aggression in some way, especially if a woman is more assertive. She is often considered bitchy or pushy. How do you? Um, I know it's a little bit contradictory because you just said that the opposite of the scale is aggressive, but how do you make a difference between actually someone who's assertive versus someone who is just loud and aggressive?
Well, unfortunately, yes, there is a stereotype when women, especially, are called bitchy, when they state their values openly. The point is keep being honest, respectful, and compassionate towards yourself first, and then towards your partner, let's say, or whatever, the other party you have a conversation with. For example, there is like day-to-day things. So a different cup of coffee in Starbucks, when there's a huge line, you receive your cup of coffee, but this is actually not what you wanted. You have three choices. You can start yelling and say whatever the fuck it is, I want my coffee. So this is one thing that's aggressive, right? You can take the cup that you actually didn't want and say, okay, I'm not going to deal with the situation. That's passive. Or you can say, excuse me, how about I get the product that I have ordered and paid for, and I'm not waiting in line, so I want it now because I have already waited in line. So give me my cup of coffee right now. If you'd like to, if you'd like me to repeat the ingredients that I want, I will gladly do it right now. That's it. You just state the rights that you have, pretty much.
But and I might be generalizing. There is no research to back me up, but my personal experience is that often when you state what you want, you are considered to be a bitch or maybe aggressive, even if you say like, this is not what I ordered. And well, coming from Estonia, we have this slightly over polite culture, probably. We sometimes feel guilty to claim what is rightfully ours.
Unfortunately, yes. This is a common thing, the guilty trip that we actually tend to submerge in before even stating what we want or what we deserve. So as I said, assertiveness is a skill. You can master it. You can learn it, starting with a cup of coffee, which is a very simple thing, ending up with a conversation with your boss and saying, I'm sorry, I'm not staying in the office, after 7 p.m. I have my own schedule. So whatever it is you want me to do, it can wait until the next day.
It's all very awesome in when we discuss that, but when it comes to you actually stating to the boss, thank God I haven't had a boss in a century, so I can't imagine. But I remember
we can play the situation, yeah.
Well, I do have a boss actually. They are playing out upstairs, but these bosses are understanding.
The kids.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about the kids, but I know that especially in US, sometimes people are afraid to state their needs in the work environment because, I'll bring Vishen as an example. When we were getting married, he said he wanted to take a month off for the wedding and the honeymoon and all that. To which boss said, "Yes, sure, but you're going to lose your your job." How to get over this fear of losing something? Well, in the case of stating it to the boss, it would be the job, but sometimes we don't say things so that we don't have a fight with someone that we love, for example, or we don't lose a friend. Or how do you deal with that fear of losing something for your assertiveness?
This is the avoidance. Well, I mean, if you choose to be passive in this case, this means the avoidance of something inevitable. So the boss would inevitably maybe be ready to fire Vishen, no matter if you were getting married or not. If he needed to take whatever rest after, some time in the hospital or whatever. It's pretty much when you choose to be assertive, it highlights the genuine intentions of other people that you are in a communication with. So it's better to actually learn it earlier than to learn it later. If your boss is disrespectful, if he shows, if he manipulates you like this, pretty much threatens you to just fire you, then you don't need this type of a boss. Yes, for some certain period of time, you might choose to cope until you, for example, find a different position. But that's it. After that, you are assertive and you state, hey, you've been a jerk to me. I actually found a different position. I'm leaving the company, and this is what I have to tell you. So when you're assertive, you don't betray yourself. This is important. Like, you actually stand up to your values and you say, no, this is wrong and this is right. It's not that, nobody's mistaken black and white here. It's just that there are wrong things and there are right things. That's it. You deserve to be, you deserve to get your right things. Again, be it the cup of coffee or be it a certain time for vacation. Just escape the manipulation with assertiveness rather than stand in this manipulative situation and relationship, with passive aggressive kind of combination of attention.
You just said, you have to stand up for what's right, there's wrong.
Right.
Obviously, you have the right to the cup of coffee that you have requested, and you probably have the right to the holidays and a lot of things. But then, on the other hand, philosophically speaking, there is no universal truth, and what's right for someone might not be right for another person. So now, if we turn the tables and look at it from the point of view of the boss, maybe... I love what you said, that your assertiveness will actually highlight the intentions of another person, the real intentions of another person. But when you choose to be assertive, how do you balance that? I don't even know how to express that, but how do you know that the right is the right and it's a universal right and not just your own personal brand of right, where, theoretically I could say I need a holiday way more, or at the time when it's important for the company that I'm in the company. So is my right really the right? How do I know that?
Well, first, if this is a situation, about holidays, for example, when there is a company, you have your certain commitments, responsibilities, and you also have your wishes, you can actually have a dialogue. State your wishes openly and state why. Every wish shall be backed by why. Not that I just want a long weekend, but I'm getting married. This is actually one of a kind event in my life. So maybe I get a little more than just 2 days of vacation, if that's possible. At the same time, you got to be open and, to listen to what the other party has to say. If the other party is saying, no, we have this 2,000 projects. Okay, how about you actually state the deadlines for this project and we discuss what I can do remotely and what shall be done in the office? Because usually it's exaggeration of 2,000 projects. Bullshit. Nothing falls down when a person takes, a slightly longer vacation for months, for example. Nothing disappears. So usually the other party, especially if it's a boss, they tend to exaggerate because they are used to you being there every day. And this is okay. So there is no such thing as universal truth, but you have your values. At the same time, when you join the company, probably you were introduced to the values of the company, mission of the company, vision of the company. And this is what you can use as your tools and say, hey, our, let's say whatever, one of our company values is actually treating people as people. So how about we do it?
So I logically have to come to the most expected question, which is, how do you train to be more assertive?
Well, I would say you can train by yourself or you can train with a coach. So eventually, in every situation, you need to choose yourself. Not from a selfish point of view, like fuck everyone else. I am the only important person here. No, but respecting yourself. Like, I actually don't want to sit at this table in the restaurant. I actually want the other one. So I would ask for it. Same thing with a cup of coffee. Same thing with the raise of salary. You come to your boss and you actually have the arguments why your salary needs to be increased to the certain amount. Same thing with vacation. So the art of choosing yourself, right, behind your every decision to do and not to do. The other point, you say no more than you say yes, because I mean, every yes is backed with the no, right? And which gives it boundaries and form. And when you choose something, this means that you automatically say no to something else. So you actually train yourself to choose more for yourself than for someone else. And what else you can do? Well, of course, you watch your body language and you use micro steps, so called. So you use very tiny actions towards your assertive self. You don't go like cold turkey right away and say, I will just contradict everything. Assertiveness is not about contradiction, it's about stating your ground and keeping your ground. So when you train with a coach, it's a different thing. You go through situations, you actually work on them, and you have an accountability partner. When you're on your own, you keep yourself accountable. Like, you pretty much write down all the situations that happened during the day and ask yourself, was I assertive or was I not assertive? Why was I not assertive? Right? So what kept me? I was afraid of this and this. I had this type of fear. Okay, then you explain to yourself why actually you did not act assertively in a certain situation. So you keep your track record, you measure, because if you cannot change what you do not measure. So measuring is important.
How do you measure
That's how you
assertiveness?
train. As I said, you track the situations that happen during the day and ask yourself, on a scale 1 to 10, how assertive was I? If you were assertive, okay, congratulations, instant gratitude, perfect. If you were not assertive, if you chose to be passive or aggressive, then it's a different thing. What made you, act aggressively? What were you defending? What rights, what boundaries were crossed? What rights were violated? Were they actually violated, or you just acted based on anxiety, for example? So this is how you track it.
Mm. So a little practical question. Let's say if someone needs to practice assertiveness, some of us do, I believe. Starting might be a little hard, even for quite
Yep.
successful worldly people. It's sometimes hard if you've been all your life like a pleasing person to actually start drawing your boundaries and being assertive and asking for what's due to you. How on one side, I understand this whole idea, just do it with a small thing, just start somewhere. But on the other hand,
Yes.
if you try to be assertive and you're still scared, it's going to translate into the way you are, into the way you talk, into the way you look. And the same request to please give me the cup of coffee that I have actually ordered might actually sound very different. How do you get over that first initial, probably scariest block to start this process and this ball rolling?
Well, you gotta apply radical compassion towards yourself and actually let yourself make mistakes on your way towards an assertive human and say, okay, this is fine. I can get it 50%, but the other 50%, I might, act based on my patterns, because people pleasing, it's the pattern. This is what we get used to with our parents, teachers at school, whatever. Then our husbands, wives, it's like, okay, I'm going to do whatever you want. Just shut up, things like that. So this is not good. So you also actually, what's important to track how many times you apologize for something that does not require an apology. All this little, oh, I'm sorry. One thing is, I'm sorry I stepped on your foot, actually, like wearing high heels. That sucks. That hurts. But the other thing is, oh, I'm sorry I this, or I'm sorry I'm that. I have a friend who, she's a perfect cook, but every time I see her, she's apologizing for the food she cooked. Oh, I'm sorry this might not be so fresh, or I'm sorry this might not be this. I'm like, just stop doing this. Your food is perfect. Why would you apologize? And she admitted that she does it automatically. So a lot of us just do things on autopilot. It's like you get up and you go as you used to. So eventually, when you teach yourself to become more assertive, you stop doing things on autopilot and just track, how many times I said sorry. Okay, 20 times per day. Not bad. Before I used to say 15. And yes, you let yourself be shy. You let yourself be scared. You let yourself have, the common fear. But at the same time, you say, I am afraid, but I will get the cup of coffee that I ordered. Okay, that's it.
I think a cup of coffee will now automatically remind me of being assertive and my boundaries. We have a bunch of questions coming in. So if Luba could find if anybody of our guests is willing to join us in this conversation. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask something, and God, it slipped my mind. Oh, I wanted to suggest to you guys, meanwhile, while Luba is bringing the person on, to make a sorry counter. I'm not sure how it's about you, but I know that the first time when it wasn't some movie. It actually was totally wrong context. But this idea of sorry being inappropriate or overused hit me so hard. I started battling it. I'm still having a trouble. I guess I have this old-fashioned civility so deeply ironed into me that sorry just comes automatically. But I suggest maybe if you're interested to experiment and to discover something new about you, put on the sorry counter for a day and try to count how many times you say sorry. It could be very interesting. Luba, tell us, what's our verdict? Do we have a guest joining us?
Yes, Melissa, if you can start your video, would be great.
So thank you so much for having me on board. This is very similar to what Kristina asked earlier as well. So just to give you just an idea of why I am asking it, I'm also more of an introvert, but I'm a person with I'm also a very ambitious person, but this assertiveness is actually a challenge that I've had because as a person, as much as I'm ambitious and hardworking, I have had the challenge of being, as a normal person, I'm not a loud person. I'm quiet, and I'm also an empath. So I very easily it's so easy for me to kind of be dominated by aggression or loudness, and it's easier to be passive. But I have this huge drive to overcome it because of the goals that I have. So what I wanted to ask you is, for a person, if it's not natural for you to be loud and aggressive, and if you're more of a quiet person, but you want to stand your ground and you want to be true to yourself, what are some of the strategies you can take to kind of be more assertive?
Thank you, Melissa, for your question. Yeah, I would say, well, adding to what we have already discussed with Kristina, now I would say you can actually start asking more questions.
Right.
In a situation when you feel that your opponent, your partner is, let's say, more pushy, more aggressive, you can use the method called mirroring. and labeling, actually, two methods. And you can label what he is doing and say, why are you being so pushy right now? Why is it important for you? Because in a lot of cases, again, the person does not want to be pushy. It's just their natural way. Like your natural way is to be more passive. So when you label it, the person can actually say like, oh, am I being pushy? Like, I'm so sorry. You know, can we just take this situation to a different realm, kind of. Right. So the other thing you can say, you can openly state, I appreciate what you are saying now, or I appreciate our conversation. At the same time, I'm not willing to talk in this tone. So this is called stating your own wishes. So again, being assertive. And the person can ask you, what's up, what's wrong with my tone? You can say, maybe there's nothing wrong for you, but for me, I would prefer a more calm, let's say, conversation. If this is, of course, okay for you. If not, we can park it and come back to this conversation later. No problem. So you leave the other person a choice. At the same time, you choose not to be the part of the conversation that is damaging you. Right? And what else, you actually, you can ask if the person can say the same thing in a different way. You can say, can you please say exactly what you said or repeat the same thing in a different way? Again, more calm and more simple way. I will appreciate if you do it. So you show respect, you show openness, you are willing to be vulnerable in this case, but at the same time, you state your ground. And you say, I am afraid I won't be able to proceed with this talk, with this conversation, in case you are willing to only be pushing. That's it. So you don't contradict their pushiness. You don't contradict them being aggressive, but you train yourself to actually mirror, label, and state your ground. And then you measure. Right. Then you put your successes on paper or whatever Excel, table and measure.
Right. So it's a matter of standing your ground and practicing it.
Right. Right. It's the measure of practicing it on daily basis in all situations. For example, your parents call you and they want you, to come and see them, but you are in the middle of something else. And you are you want to be polite, but at the same time, you want to finish what you were doing. And you can say, at the moment, I won't be able to come and see you, but in several hours or the next day, yes, I can do it. I just, hope there's nothing to apologize for. So you don't say, I'm sorry, and you don't feel guilty, because there is a big difference between actually feeling guilty and being guilty. So just don't mistake in it. Don't feel guilty for what, when you have done nothing wrong.
Right. So I guess we know, it does make sense, but I guess it's a matter of practice and
yes.
Becoming better at that skill.
Yes, it's a matter of daily practice, and practice with yourself as well. Like you can practice looking in the mirror.
Right. So, and just one more thing. So this would require a lot of self-compassion, right?
Yes.
Like, if not, it's a bit tough to kind of keep going on this journey.
It requires a lot of self-compassion. Yes, openness to make mistakes and actually allowing yourself to make mistakes, allowing yourself to fall in the same patterns, but at the same time tracking the patterns. So, for example, if your pattern is being passive in a situation when someone else is aggressive, then you track it. You track how you feel, you track what you do. And you act differently, but again, not aggressive, but assertive. And you can start your practice with determining your values, your personal values. I'm Melissa, and these are my 5 core values.
Right, got it.
And
Thank
make
you.
an agreement. Yeah, make an agreement with yourself not to betray the values.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for asking your question. Luba, if we have someone else who is willing to join, I think we have time for at least one more question, and there are 7, so not everybody will get a chance. So if there is a question which is more popular than other questions, then I'd be happy to introduce this person also into conversation. But before that, I wanted to ask, when do you know, we have another guest, but Kalpana, if you can wait a little bit, I wanted to ask a question and then I'll pass the microphone to you. I wanted to ask this question. There are certain situations where socially it's more appropriate or more acceptable to be passive or to ignore. A very simple example is rudeness on internet. We often don't engage into these kind of conversations, yet occasionally, especially when I do lives on Instagram where there are a lot of random people, I would get rude comments, and I used to ignore that as is the common agreement, social agreement, until I saw a video by one actress, I actually don't remember the name anymore, where she was actually comparing it to aggression on the street. When a person comes up to you on the street and is aggressive, you usually would respond because that's not acceptable. On internet, it's not acceptable. And I became a little bit more passionate about that to actually call out. But my question is, it's more of a background to my question. The question is, when do you know where it is okay and it makes sense actually to be assertive, to call out maybe disrespect or some situations where your values are not being respected, and when is it better to just ignore it and move on and not be assertive in a circumstance?
You know, ignoring when you actually choose it, when you don't fall in a pattern of being passive, but when you say, okay, I actually get that this person is being aggressive to me and I choose to ignore because I don't want to have this conversation at all, then this is a choice. This means that you are assertive. At the same time, you can say, this is not acceptable on my Instagram page. I appreciate what you said, but I am not accepting it. This is not related to me at all. So what I actually do, because I'm also pretty active on social media and I receive different, including negative comments, I stated a policy very early at the beginning of my activities. I actually said, look, my social media pages are not garbage cans. So I'm not looking forward to collect any garbage here, including negativity. So you leave your negativity to yourself. Just stay with it. If you're willing to express it, go ahead, write it in your journal. The point is, if you express it to me, I will simply delete a comment and that's it. You know, I don't let people litter on my social media pages. And this is what means being assertive, because you don't let people come to your house and, you know, litter on the floor, right? Same thing with social media pages. There's also one more important thing. When you choose to be assertive, it's important to remember that you are not responsible for what other people feel. It's their feelings. It's their responsibility. If they want to be aggressive, no problem, just not with me. I am not ready to be in this situation with you, right? Go be aggressive, come back, let's talk, things like that. And you just don't allow it. This is about healthy boundaries. You state your boundary and say, you don't act like this with me. You may go ahead and talk to anyone else, but don't leave a comment under my post like this. Like it's going to be deleted because I don't want you to see it and no one else, none of my audience wants to see it. It's not about, you know, people tend to actually mistaken freedom of speech with freedom of bullshit speech. And no one wants bullshit on, you know, in their live social media pages and everything. So you can't actually say that someone is an idiot if you're not willing to say it openly in their face. Then this is cowardness.
Thank you so much. I think it's an interesting and a very relevant topic to a lot of people nowadays. But we have Kalpana here. Kalpana, thank you for joining me and Alla. And I'm passing the microphone to you. I'll mute myself to avoid extra noises.
Hi, Kristina. Hi, Alla.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my question. I mean, this is the first time I've been on Mind-Lakhiani since January. The first time I'm asking a question, so it's taken a bit of courage. Yeah, I've been in these kind of situations where you're in a office meeting with colleagues or with or our clients or other stakeholders, and I just want to. I mean, even though I'm in communications where, you have to be able to articulate yourself very well, but sometimes I just feel that I want to make my point, but because other people are talking, I'm just like waiting to be able to make a point. And it's really annoying when somebody else somehow has got in and just made the exact point that you wanted to say. So I mean, sometimes what I've noticed is that I tend to jump in and the person is still carrying on with their point, and that might come across as a bit, impolite or rude. But I see that as asserting myself. So just want to try and get the right balance. And I think it's happened in Zoom calls as well. So it'd be interesting to get your take on this, to see if you see that happen and how it's dealt with.
So I would say, again, assertiveness is about boundaries, but a lot of people, especially during the meeting or Zoom calls, they just don't feel the boundaries. They cross them always. So assertiveness is also about active listening. So you can listen, for example, to the other person and they're talking and it's nonstop. And you can say, sorry, can I interrupt you at this point? Because what you just said is actually very important. And I would like to add this. And you can state your point. But you know that you need to finish, in like 60 seconds maximum, because you interrupted the other person. And maybe they would like to proceed with the conversation, maybe not. But at the same time, you listen very actively. You choose the point that correlates with whatever you want to say, and then you make your statement, your addition. If it's possible, of course, it would be great to agree before the meeting how much time everyone has, in their capacity. So if everyone has 2 minutes, then that's it. It's like a TED Talk. You have 50 minutes or 25 minutes, and that's it. You can keep talking, but you're going to be out of stage. So if you can agree upon the rules of how much each person has before the meeting starts, that's great. If you can't, then you just, listen to the point where you can insert your, your addition. At the same time, what you can also do, you can start first. When you know that your colleagues are talkative and they would go on for ages, then you can start first. You can say, hello, well, how about I start first with my points during this meeting? And when you're done, that's it. You keep listening to everyone else, but you're going to be done first. This is also an assertive, courageous step. It's like you're stepping forward, willing, to accept mistakes if you made them, etc. But this is an assertive step. So these are the 3 ways you can use assertiveness.
And is it a case of just being really prepared? Or, is it, I think it's a confidence thing as well, but I get your point about listening. Maybe I'm sometimes thinking too much about what I want to say, which I think is important.
It is important, but you don't get, engraved in your own thinking. At the same time, you listen to where the conversation goes, and then you dive in. Again, or you start first, or you agree before the meeting. But you gotta initiate this before the meeting conversation as well. So assertiveness is about the initiation of something, of the conversation based on your values.
That's great. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Sure. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we are running out of time because I want to be respectful of our Mind Valley stage, and we'll be finishing. But I had to ask this question. Sorry, I'm using my power, and I'm using, sorry, by the way, but I'm using my position here with my microphone. I wanted to ask this. I guess there's a difference between assertiveness, where you claim your boundaries and you say, this is what's important for me, that's what or how I want to be taken or heard or spoken to. But occasionally we think that people are assertive when they come after you with their wants and needs and they want something from you. How do you find, I mean, can you explain that thing? Because I have a strong feeling that this is a different kind of assertiveness when somebody keeps writing you the same email, like, I want a moment of your attention. Why don't you reply to me? I want this. What's that about? Is that assertiveness or is it something else?
No, it's not assertiveness. It's bugging you to fulfill their own needs. Yes, assertiveness is also about your own needs, but it's not about sending you 2,000 emails and actually asking you for the answer, for example. Assertiveness is about saying, hey, I understand that you don't have probably that much time. And I have this one question that is really important for me. If we can discuss it in any format that is convenient for you, I'm open. Also, time convenient for you, I will adjust my schedule. If you choose to say no, I will accept it. I appreciate your time and attention. Goodbye. This is an assertive approach. And this is when you don't send a follow-up email, followed up by the other 10 emails. So it's wanting something for yourself, but at the same time respecting the time, the effort of the other party. And actually saying why you want it. You can explain why this question is important for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I think it's a really great answer and very helpful. And we'll have to be finishing, but traditionally I want to ask people who are listening to leave love for my guest Alla today. You can leave it as a heart in the comments in the chat for those who are online, and for those who are going to see that in recording, leave the heart in the comments below the video. Thank you so much everyone for joining us, for commenting actively. Unfortunately, I couldn't read most of the comments, and for asking your questions in the Q&A. Thank you ladies for joining us in the conversation. It was such a pleasure to share the stage with you, and huge thanks Alla to you for joining me today and for being so I really loved the energy with which you answered all those questions, which are sometimes so puzzling and confusing, and this calm assertiveness. That's probably the right word for that. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone. And I'm going to see you in a week, hopefully, if holidays don't take over. So I'll see you in a week, and thank you and bye.